they go into the museum, and all of the stuff happens inside of the museum, and then they get out at the top of the museum, and Tess has twisted her ankle, and Joel gets out some tape and tapes up her ankle. Now, Joel uses electrical tape. So why was the sound duct tape?
Oh my god, that's your comment. That's your issue with it.
Yeah, because it's so silly.
Your issue is that the sound effect is wrong.
It's so silly. The sound effect is wrong.
One tiny thing.
So it doesn't add up. It is not realistic. So it takes me out of the realism.
It might
of the
have
episode.
been mini duct tape.
No, it wasn't. It was
mini
electrical
duct
tape. It was black electrical tape. I could see.
Yeah, no, but you can
I
get
could see
black
it.
mini duct tape. You can. Maybe that's what
It
made
wasn't
that.
that.
Maybe
So your
it
issue was
wasn't.
that it was the rip of. It was the rip of.
Yeah,
of
and
a
when they
normal
were like
tape,
pulling it, it was making duct tape sound, and it was electrical tape that they were taping her ankle.
I have to
with.
say, well done for noticing that, because that is such a small detail. I'm impressed with that.
That's what ADHD does for you. But that was the thing that, like, I just wish that sound effect just was the right one. But the problem is, if you use electrical tape, it doesn't make any noise.
It doesn't make a sound.
So there's no
Right.
addition to the. So I know why they use duct tape sound, but just like use a different tape that does make a sound. Like, you know, it's just
maybe it's that in the show it's not realistic for them to have their hands on duct tape. I don't know. That's the only thing I think of.
What I think is they were using electrical tape because it's like it's more of a tape you would use to wrap an ankle. But and they're not going to have sports tape, are they? Like in that situation.
Yeah.
But because it doesn't add any element to the scene, they chose to go with a tape sound so that it would give some sort of like, it would give an extra layer to the scene of like she's taping up her ankle. But that just annoyed me. Like things like that do annoy me in films. So, you know, apologies to everybody that is currently going, what is this guy on about?
This is what you get with the walkthrough every week.
But this
we dive into the topics.
I've always got something to say. The other thing was just a question. It was a general wondering, and there's probably a very, very real answer to it. But why are there birds and animals about that aren't infected?
I had the exact same question.
Like, why aren't the birds infected? Like, that's what I can't work out.
Isn't it harder for a human to bite a bird and then the bird to bite other birds? Isn't it a bit harder to do that?
But it's not. It's.
I don't have a clear answer.
Because if it's infecting, sort of like what it looked like is that the actual tendrils had spread and sort of like infected like plant matter and stuff, which is how it like notified the other infected people. So I just assumed that a bird would eat like a bit of vine or something on the floor and get infected, or other animals would do that. I was really confused how none of the animals were infected.
I feel like you're both looking at me. The way our stream is set.
Why aren't the birds infected, Nathan?
I don't know. But yeah, that's a good question.
So I don't know if anyone like, you know, watching or
please,
or, like knows, because there's probably I like given the time they've put into the thought process behind the science of it, there's probably got to be some sort of rationale.
Just to clarify, tendrils and the way that Tess describes the infected as having a network between them and feeling and all that kind of stuff, that is not in the game. That is a completely new thing for the TV series. Very cool. I enjoyed it a lot. Really cool concept. But there's a snowball effect you get with this, which I'm going to go through now. So the snowball effect is that, I'm going to try not to spoil, you know, what happens, but there is a few spoilers. So in the game, the way Joel finds out and kind of has that moment of knowing that Ellie can't get infected is that they're going through an area filled with spores, and Joel's got a mask on, and Ellie walks through with no mask and she doesn't get infected, and that's the point that he believes that she can't get infected. That's when he goes, okay, she can't get infected. The way they had to do it in this episode was for Ellie to get bitten again, which felt a bit pointless to me, because it was just like, oh, I've been bitten again, and made a big point out of it and stuff, right? But then that had another snowball effect, and I'm not going to go through the entire thing, but This leads to the test scene, which I was a bit disappointed in, because in the game, what happens to Tess isn't to do with the infected. It's to do with soldiers coming up into that building. So what happens in the TV show is that she gets bitten, just like in the game, and is revealed, and Ellie says, oh, she's infected, and Joel's shocked, and all that kind of stuff, and they say their goodbyes. But in the game, Tess's demise is heroic. She says, I'm not turned into one of them. You know, she doesn't want to turn. She's really brave, and she's a powerful, strong character. And it's, you know, someone to look up to, like that heroicness that comes through in the video game. And that's because the soldiers are all over the building, and they're going in. Obviously, she doesn't stand a chance, but she puts up a fight so that Joel and Ellie can escape. In the video game, what happens is, because the tendrils exist, one of the infected just walks up to her, kisses her, and she just kind of, I mean, she can't help it because she's an infected at that point, and she's communicating with the rest of the tendrils, and I get why they put that in the game, but it felt really meek.
Really?
Her demise felt really, compared to the game. You two might not agree, because it might have felt heroic in that moment. But compared to the game, the way that I felt Tess was done a bit dirty, and I hope that explains a bit why it differs to the game, because I
didn't think her death was. I think this is probably why, because I haven't played the game. It didn't feel like her death was meant to be heroic to me. It kind of felt like she was scared to die. She hadn't accepted it. She didn't want to die. She just had no other choice, so she had to die. And she thought in that moment, if I'm gonna die anyway, what can I do? And I think that's how it was portrayed in the TV show. Is that, and I think it did it well. That's what it portrayed. But if obviously that's different to the game, then it's different to the game. That's not what her death was meant to represent. But in the show, it was kind of like that moment where she's trying to flick the light over and over and over and over, and it's obviously meant to build that suspense for a viewer to be like, is she going to be able to do it? Oh my god, what if she can't do it? It is meant to build that level of like suspense and stuff, but you can tell that when she's doing that, and when she kind of like hesitates, and you're kind of like in that moment where she's being kissed, you're like, oh, is she completely infected now? Is that it then? But she still manages to power through, which does have a very minimal heroic sense to it, but it doesn't feel like it's a big heroic act the way that you're describing, like it is in the game. It feels like she was scared to die and she didn't know what to do, so she kind of just did what she was forced to do, in a sense. It's very different.
In the video game, there was no fear. It was just defiance. But like, I'm not going to turn into one of them. It was, I'm going to fight these soldiers off for as long as possible. You get out of here before I turn infected. Like, I'm not scared. I'm gonna help you out.
I don't agree at all, though.
It was just different.
Because I don't.
What do you think?
I don't agree that it wasn't brave. Like, I think there is this Hollywood idea that fear, like, is not a part of being brave. And fear is the number one contributor to being brave. Bravery is just ignoring the fear and moving past the fear and not letting the fear just like dictate what you do in that moment. So to me, and also like I take issue with calling it a kiss. It was literally.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a kiss. I just called it a kiss because Nathan called it a kiss.
Yeah, but it was literally the tendrils and the fungi coming out of
connecting
his mouth and going into Tess's body through the most obvious orifice in the body. Like, such a horrible word, but it's, you know, that's what it is. But for me, like, she knew what she was going to do. Because why if she didn't know what she was going to do, and hadn't made that snap decision in her head, I'm staying here, I'm giving my life up, and so that they can get away, because she's realised it's really important that Ellie gets to where she needs to go. Then she starts knocking over all the gas canisters, and sorry for all the spoilers, but like, I feel it's necessary at this juncture. She starts knocking them all over and filling the whole place with petrol, and then knows what she's going to do. when they come through, and she's trying to hit the lighter, that's the moment for the audience where like, oh, it adds that suspense of like, will she, won't she, will she be able to, won't she? Like for me, seeing fear in someone's eyes, or seeing fear in the moment that and still breaking through to do the thing that they have already decided they're going to do, and not letting the fear dictate what happens to them or drive what happens to them or motivate them in any way, is the ultimate pinnacle of what bravery is.